tell you that. Hell, I wasn't either. Nonetheless, we here. We is here. Y'all wasn't expecting your boy. I'll explain shortly. Let me just get some stuff organized. I need to do something right quick. Hold on. Just waiting for folks to pile up in here, hang out with your boy. What's good with ya? Wait, this video got the wrong freaking title on it. Hold on. Stupid mess. I done changed this title already. I just did it. God dang. Hold on. Let me fix the title again. This ain't right at all. God damn. How they do me like this? I don't even know how they do me like this. I did all this. Stupid title. God dang. Alright, now the title should be better. Glad I came over here to check this out. God dang. Anyway, switched it up on them. Bam! What up, AOK Mafia? It's your boy Artofkickz, and just like that, we back with another one. Alright, y'all, so I know y'all wasn't expecting me tonight. I wasn't expecting me tonight, but nonetheless, we are here. We are here right now to hang out with the Mafia. You understand? Members chat only tonight, baby. Less disruptions. I think I used the wrong word. But anyway, y'all know what I meant to say. Y'all know what I meant to say. Y'all, so I was in the mood for some Mr. Ballin', some good storytelling. I was in the mood. If anything, this live stream is for me tonight. Because I was in the mood. Don't call it a comeback, because I ain't came back like that yet. This is for me. I tried to listen to an older Mr. Ballin' video, and I was like, man, I haven't heard this story already. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I listened to it all the way through. But I'm like, I'm ready for something fresh that I haven't heard yet. So here we are. Here we are. We're about to check this out. We's about to check this out. Justin, I see you, baby. King Cole, we in here. Big boy. Y'all ready? I'm ready. Y'all, this video right here is top 3 most unbelievable celebrity backstories. Ooh. Let's get it.
Today, I'm going to share 3 little-known, ridiculous backstories of 3 very famous people. And the last one has a very satisfying ending. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload 2 or 3 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please replace the like button's Shroot Bucks with Stanley Nichols. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories. In 1971, a 19-year-old Irishman named William began studying physics and computer science at a university in Belfast, Northern Ireland. While he was certainly smart enough to complete the 4-year degree, after 1 year of being in the school, he decided to drop out because he felt like this was not the path he wanted to be on. So he moved back home to a town about 30 minutes north of Belfast, where he got a job as a forklift driver and truck driver for the Guinness Beer Factory. And while he loved this job, he still felt like this was not the path for him. He needed to do something more with his life. And so he decided he would pursue what 2 of his siblings had gone on to do, which was to become a school teacher. He had always admired his school teachers growing up, and he idolized his 2 siblings that had become teachers, and so it felt like the right fit. And so William applied to a 4-year teaching college in Newcastle in England, and after he was accepted, he flew to England, he got set up, and then he began his studies. The first year was great. He loved what he was doing. He did feel like this is the right fit, and he was getting good grades. Everything was going exactly to plan. But then year 2 happened and everything went off the rails. A requirement to graduate from this 4-year teaching college was all the aspiring teachers starting in their 2nd year had to go teach real students real lessons. They basically had to go to high schools and elementary schools and fill in for the real teacher and give a real lesson. And they were scored on their ability to do that. But all the aspiring teachers knew that when you gave these real lessons to real students, what really ended up happening was the students did not take the aspiring teachers seriously. They viewed them as kind of like substitute teachers, and so they didn't respect them and they didn't listen to them. And so typically these real teaching sessions just turned into the aspiring teachers desperately trying to calm down their pupils long enough to get them to listen to their lesson plan for just 1 second. But normally it didn't work out, and before long the day was over and nothing was really accomplished. So in William's second year, when it was his turn to go over to a high school and administer his lesson plan, he went over there knowing what he was up against. He did not really expect it to go well, but he decided he would go in there with a positive attitude and he would try to do his best. But as soon as he walked into his classroom, he immediately could tell he was going to be overwhelmed. Everybody's standing up and talking amongst themselves, and they turn around and they see William walking in, and they have this moment of realization that their real teacher is not going to be teaching them that day. It's going to be this substitute.
Yo, this reminds me of when I was in school, man. We used to do the same thing, bro. I couldn't stand substitute teachers. I ain't never paid them no attention. I would never listen to a substitute teacher. I was like, nope, you ain't my teacher. You don't know what you talking about. Get out of my face.
William, and they all kind of gleefully began laughing and joking, and they just turned their backs on William and kept talking amongst themselves. And so William goes inside, he puts his stuff on the desk, and he attempts to get the class to listen to him by saying, hey everyone, come on, sit down, time to listen up, I'm your new teacher for the day. But the kids just were not listening. And so finally, William, who was a really big guy, he was 6'4", he was in great shape, he kind of postured himself and then yelled at the class, sit down right now. And at this, the class did turn around and looked at William and kind of sized him up, and most of them decided, okay, it's time to sit down. And so 99% of the class goes quiet and sits down, except for one kid. It was this 15-year-old boy who was at the back of the room, and he was standing up, defiant, with his arms crossed, staring at William with a smirk on his face. And all around him, all his cronies were sitting down, looking up at him, laughing, and kind of looking up at William and laughing at him, knowing that a confrontation was about to ensue.
This is getting interesting. Shout out to the new channel members. We got a few of y'all up in here. Myra, Joanne, how you doing? I see y'all up in here. V Just Me, Jackie, what's good with you?
And so William is staring at this kid, trying to get him to just sit without saying anything, and this kid is just mean mugging him with his arms crossed, and nothing's happening. And so William walks right up to him and kind of leans over his shoulder and says, you need to go out in the hallway right now. I will meet you out there. And then William turned around and started walking back towards the front of the room, expecting this to have worked, that this 15-year-old kid would have just followed right along and he'd walk right out to the hallway and that would be that. But when he turned back around again, the 15-year-old kid had not moved. He was still standing in the back of the classroom, arms crossed, staring up at William, basically saying, make me. And at this, William lost his mind. He was so mad and so frustrated at how unbelievably disrespectful this kid was being, and really the whole class was being to him, that he just kind of lost it. And he ran up to this kid in the back of the room and he gets right up in his face. And remember, William is 6'4". He's a big guy. And he gets right in the kid's face and he's like, get out in the hall right now. And this kid doesn't flinch. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a knife, and he holds it right up against William.
What?
And William, without any hesitation, just winds up and blasts this kid across the side of the head, sending him flying over a kid sitting at a desk.
Look. Shouldn't no teacher, shouldn't no grown adult be hitting no kid? But if a kid pull a knife out on you, you better get him before he gets you. That's all I'm saying. Reflexes is a bit.
Over this kid and crumples into the corner, and then when he stands up, he drops the knife and puts his hands up, and he's like, okay, I'll go out in the hall. And William's like, go out in the hall right now. And so the kid ran out of the classroom, he goes out into the hall, and the whole class is totally silent. No one even wants to look up at William. They're all kind of just looking down at their desk, trying to be as quiet as possible. And William walks back to the front of the class and proceeds to teach the rest of the lesson. As soon as the high school learned that this aspiring teacher, William, had basically knocked out one of their students, even though it seemed like it might have been a little bit deserved, they immediately told the teacher's college, and the teacher's college immediately expelled William.
Of course.
And so now William is suddenly jobless, and he's kind of lost again in the world. He doesn't know what he wants to do now because he really had committed to being a teacher. And so he goes back to his home in Northern Ireland, and he begins thinking about, what is he going to do next? And he keeps having this thought that he should pursue this thing that he's always been interested in, but he had never taken seriously because it felt so risky. But now that basically everything in his life had fallen apart, he had nothing to lose. So he decided, what the heck, I will do the thing that I've always wanted to do.
What's that, acting?
And that was stage acting. And so he went and auditioned with a local theater company in Belfast. He was accepted into the theater troupe, and then 4 years later, he was discovered performing on stage by a Hollywood filmmaker. And they cast him in a movie, and the rest, as they say, is history. William Neeson, better known as Liam Neeson, would go on to star in dozens of huge movies and TV shows, and he's
shout out to Liam Neeson.
Probably best known for his epic role in the movie Taken, where he is this CIA operative with a particular set of skills. Yeah. And in this movie, he punches a lot of people in the face, just like when he was a teacher.
That's awesome. I love that story. Liam Neeson.
In 1963, when Tim Dick was just 10 years old, he went over to his friend's house and he snuck a bottle of whiskey from one of their shelves. He pulled it out and he poured himself a full glass to the brim with whiskey, and then he downed it in one huge gulp. Tim had grown up idolizing cowboys on TV, and every time he watched them, they would come galloping into some town, they would go into the saloon, and they would sit at the bar just throwing back shots of whiskey. And so Tim always assumed whiskey must be this totally amazing, refreshing drink for these guys to be drinking it out in the heat of the desert. But unfortunately for Tim, after he slugged this huge glass of whiskey, it was not refreshing. It tasted like gasoline, and his chest felt like it was on fire. But instead of being turned off by alcohol and waiting until he was older and of age to try it again, Tim instead thought, you know what, the next time I have whiskey, I just need to water it down a little bit. And so for the next year, Tim continued to periodically sneak whiskey out of his friends' cabinets, and he would drink this watered down whiskey. And then, when he turned 11 years old, his father, who he was
Wait, what? Turned 11? He was that young? God!
very close with, died tragically in a car accident.
Oh.
And Tim really didn't have a good way to cope with the grief of losing his father, and so he turned to drinking even more than he already was. And before long, Tim was like this young kid who basically was an alcoholic.
Wow.
But he hid it extremely well. He graduated high school, he graduated college, and really nobody knew he was drinking as much as he was. But after he graduated college and he was living on his own in Michigan, there was no structure in place or person in place to stop Tim from going overboard with his substance abuse.
He needed a positive male role model. He needed a father figure in his life. He didn't have it. His father passed away, and he didn't have any guidance after that. Poor guy.
And so not only did his drinking get completely out of control, but he began using and selling drugs, namely cocaine. In 1978, when Tim was 25 years old, he and his drug dealing partner were scheduled to take part in the biggest drug deal of their careers. They would be selling about 1.5 pounds of cocaine to a guy named Michael Pfeiffer, and he'd be buying it for $42,000, which, when you adjust that for inflation, would be like buying it for $175,000 in 2021. Tim and his partner were very excited about all this money they were going to make, but they were equally worried about the transaction. A lot can go wrong. And so Tim decided, in order to mitigate their nerves and kind of make this a safer drug deal,
get a pew-pew,
he decided they would do the transaction inside of a public airport. Because
in the airport? That's stupid. What up, Clint? Thank you, baby. Appreciate it. Don't know. Y'all, I'm so into this story. I would be reading all of y'all comments, but I'm so into this story right now.
Tim had seen that done on TV and believed that would give them an additional layer of safety. And so on the day this deal is going to take place, Tim takes the 1.5 pounds of cocaine, he puts it inside of a brown Adidas gym bag, and he also throws a key lock inside of this bag. He zips it up, he walks outside, he dumps the bag in the back of his car, and he drives to the Kalamazoo International Airport in Michigan. When he gets there, he parks in the big parking lot right outside of the front doors, and as soon as he's parked, he goes around to the back of his car, he pulls out this brown Adidas bag, he throws it over his shoulder, shuts his trunk, and then he waits for his partner to show up. A couple of minutes later, right on time, his partner pulls into the lot, he parks nearby, and then the two of them very casually begin walking towards the front doors of this airport. They walk up the steps, they go in the front doors, and as soon as they're inside, they're looking around, and they find Michael Pfeiffer. He's standing up against the wall right in the area he had said he would be. And so without making any sort of contact with Michael, Tim and his partner turn the corner and they go into a nearby locker room. Once they're inside, Tim pulls the lock out of the brown bag and then he puts the bag with the drugs in it inside of a locker. He shuts it and then uses the lock he just pulled out to lock the locker. And then he and his partner leave the locker room. As soon as they go out into the main terminal, they start walking over towards Michael Pfeiffer. And as they get closer and closer, Tim's partner breaks off and goes to a bench on the other side of the terminal, and Tim continues walking on right up to Michael. And then when he reaches Michael, he very discreetly hands him the key to the lock on the locker, and he tells him which locker number the drugs are in. Michael doesn't say anything. He takes the key and he heads off to the locker room. Tim turns and he goes over to his partner and he sits down on the bench and waits.
All right, but where the money at? I'm over here trying to think just how smooth and effortless this transaction can be. I need to know that the money is real.
Meanwhile, Michael goes inside the locker room. He uses the key. He opens up the lock. He opens the locker up. He checks to make sure the drugs are still there. They are. As soon as that's confirmed, he takes the bag, he throws it over his shoulder, and he walks back out to the main terminal to meet up with Tim and his partner. Tim and his partner are sitting on the bench. They see Michael coming out of the locker room, and they're expecting Michael to walk over and basically hand them a bag full of $42,000. But instead, Michael walks up to them and draws a gun and points it at them and says, "I'm a police officer, you're under arrest." It would turn out this was a sting operation. Michael Pfeiffer, the undercover police officer, had been following around Tim and his partner for months. In Michigan at the time, if you were caught trying to sell 650 grams or more of cocaine, there was an automatic penalty of a life sentence. And Tim and his partner had just been arrested trying to sell more than 650 grams of cocaine. And so facing a life sentence, Tim took a deal that gave him a lesser sentence in exchange for information about other drug dealers. And so Tim would ultimately serve 2 years and 4 months in a federal penitentiary before he was released. Tim would say his time in prison was absolutely miserable, but it was necessary. It matured him in a major way, and it honed his sense of humor. Tim was always a very funny guy. He was always the class clown and the guy goofing around, but in prison, he found it a very difficult task to get these hardened prisoners and prison guards to laugh at his jokes. But eventually, with enough practice and repetition, he could get anybody in that prison to laugh at him. And so by the time he got out, he was like an amazing comedian. And so he decided, you know what? Why don't I pursue a career in comedy? 4 years
This ain't Tim Duncan, is it?
years later, Tim Dick, better known as Tim Allen,
Oh, Tim Allen, what?
landed the starring role on the hit TV show Home Improvement. And from there, he starred in dozens.
What? That's crazy. I never knew this. I never knew this. Dude, y'all don't understand. When I was a kid, I wanted this man to be my father. I wanted this man to be my father.
More movies and TV shows, but he's probably best known for his voice acting in the very popular movie series Toy Story, where he plays Buzz Lightyear. Today, Tim is sober and has been for decades.
Dang, that's crazy. That fool, he was a drunk at 11 years old. He was a freaking alcoholic. That's crazy.
In 1964, during his final semester of college in Wisconsin, a 21-year-old man named Harry decided to take an acting class. He believed it would be an easy A, and he'd always been pretty shy, and so he figured this class might be able to help him get over that. But this class wound up having a much larger impact on Harry's life than he ever could have imagined. Not only did he meet his future wife in this class, but he also realized he loved acting, something he never thought he would like, and he decided after college that that was the thing he was going to pursue. And so after he graduates later that year, he and his girlfriend get married, and then they fly out to Hollywood, California, where Harry auditions for Columbia Pictures' New Talent Program, which is basically this program that's designed to help new actors and actresses get parts in Hollywood because it's so hard to do that. And so he's accepted into this program. He signs a contract with them that pays him almost nothing. And right away, they start shopping him around for different parts in TV shows and movies, but nobody is interested in Harry. Nobody. The only roles he was getting were incredibly minor and usually non-speaking, and so it was really not advancing his career. Then, in 1966, so 2 years after he and his wife had arrived in Hollywood, Harry received what seemed like his first big break. He was offered a speaking role in a movie, although it was a very minor role. It was a 60-second bit where Harry basically walked on screen in this hotel, and he started calling out for a particular guest, and when he finds this guest, he walks up and gives him a piece of paper, and then he leaves. So it's a forgettable scene, but it's a real scene in a real movie, and so this was a big deal for Harry. And so after Harry goes over to the studio and he films his whole scene and it's all done, he goes back over to the headquarters of the New Talent Program at Columbia Pictures, and as soon as he goes inside, one of the producers that was in charge of this New Talent Program, who had apparently had a chance already to see this 60-second scene in this movie that Harry was in, he calls Harry over and asks him to go up to his office for a second. So the pair go up to his office, they both sit down, and the guy looks at him and says, "Look, I just gotta shoot you straight here. You're not gonna make it in Hollywood. You're not gonna be a movie star." When Tony Curtis was told to carry groceries across this room in one of his first movies, everybody knew right away as he's carrying those groceries that guy, he's going to be a movie star. You could see it in the scene, even though all he was doing was carrying groceries. And when you did your scene as the bellhop walking around the hotel, I just didn't see it. You don't have the X factor. You're not going to be a movie star.
Don't let nobody tell you that. Don't believe it. Don't let nobody shut your dreams down. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. You know how many people told me I wasn't going to make it on YouTube? Now here I am with 1 million subscribers. Don't believe it. I don't believe nobody say but me. I believe only me.
For reference, Tony Curtis, the guy this producer was referencing, was a huge movie star in the 1950s and 1960s. And so Harry, after getting this horrible comment made about him, he pauses for a second, and then he leans across the table and looks at this producer and squints his eyes and says, "You know, if Tony was such a good actor, shouldn't we have believed he was just a grocery delivery boy, not a movie star?" And at this totally smart aleck remark, the producer fired Harry on the spot.
Yo, that producer is weak-minded as hell, bro. He had a very valid point, so valid that it made perfect sense. But that daggone point, that remark was so cutting that it hurt the producer's feeling. The producer felt some type of way, so he's like, "No, you know what? You're right. You're fired." He fired that man because he was right.
Harry would go on to sign a similar New Talent Program deal with Universal Studios, but again, he could not get a real part to save his life. And the feedback he finally got was, "Harry, you're just not pretty enough, and you're not really that talented." By the mid-1970s, Harry was in his mid-30s, and while he still aspired to be an actor and wanted to be an actor, he was making almost no money from acting. And so he decided, instead of acting, he was going to become a carpenter. That was going to be his full-time job, despite the fact he knew nothing about carpentry. And so he literally, just because he has this interest in carpentry, goes to the library and checks out all these how to be a carpenter books. And over the next couple of weeks, he studies these books and does a couple projects around his own house. And then finally, he just felt confident enough, or he was just desperate enough for money, that he began going around to his network and asking people in Hollywood if they needed some woodworking, if they needed help from a carpenter. And surprisingly, lots of people took him up on his offer and they hired him to be their carpenter. And before long, Harry was dubbed the Carpenter to the Stars, which was kind of ironic because he actually was not a very good carpenter, and he was regularly seen on the job, literally holding a book, teaching him how to be a carpenter while doing the carpentry with his other hand. In 1976, Harry was a full-fledged carpenter and had been for about a year when one of his very close friends named Fred Roos, who was a casting director and film producer, gave him a call and told him he had a very unique opportunity for him. Now, at this point, Harry was not looking for any more acting roles. He kind of figured that ship had sailed, even though he wishes he could be an actor. At this point, he had a wife, he had 2 sons, and so he's thinking, I gotta just keep doing this carpentry thing because I gotta pay the bills. So he says to Fred, I appreciate the offer of whatever this is, but if it has to do with acting, I'm just not interested. And Fred, who was one of the very few people in Hollywood who fundamentally believed Harry was destined to be a star, told Harry, no, this is different. This is not a pure go out and try out for the part and hope for the best. This is like, put yourself in a good position and maybe somebody will discover you're as talented as you really are. And so Harry's like, okay, tell me about this opportunity, I'm interested. And so Fred explained there was this really talented and eccentric film director who was trying to cast an upcoming movie. And the way he went about casting for movies was a little bit strange. Instead of having each of the actors and actresses show up and individually audition for their parts, he would group batches of actors and actresses, and he would have them audition as a group.
You know what's fascinating about this? One of my dreams coming out of high school is I wanted to be a casting director. I wanted to be the person that found the talent, new talent, or even old talent, but, found the people that would be right for the movies or right for the TV shows. That was something that I wanted to be. But things change.
Because that way he could tell if there was chemistry amongst some of the actors and actresses, and he could gauge their individual talent. And so he had all these groups already planned out, but one of the groups was missing one male actor. Somebody had dropped out at the last minute and was not going to be there on the day of the audition. And so when Fred Roos heard through the grapevine that this director was going to be short this one person, he immediately reached out to the director and said, hey, I got your guy. There's this guy, Harry. He's done a little bit of acting. He's incredibly talented. You got to give him a chance. At the minimum, he can come in there and he can at least just read the lines and help you do this audition. But I know he's available that day and I know he would love to help. And so this director tells Fred, okay, thank you. I'd love to have him come down, but stress to him, he is not auditioning for any part in this movie. I'm not bringing in some person and just throwing them in. It takes me a long time to find people that I want to audition, and he is not one of them. He is just there to facilitate the audition. He's just going to read the lines so the other people in his group can do their audition. And so after Fred stopped explaining the situation, Harry was actually kind of annoyed. He was annoyed that Fred had basically already volunteered him, and so he couldn't really even say no without making Fred look bad. And he didn't like the idea that this was basically a waste of his time.
I was thinking the same thing, but at the same time, it's like, you gotta go in there and murder. You gotta give this director a reason to think that you will be the best suitable candidate for the part, for the role.
He was being asked to go read lines, but not even try out. So how was this even an opportunity?
But Fred, trust me, you if you would think of it as not being an opportunity, you will be foolish. You will be amazed at what opportunities you can come across just by being in the right places.
I told him, look, worst case scenario, you meet some pretty powerful people in Hollywood. This director's a big deal. The people there are going to be big deals in Hollywood. So you'll meet them and maybe they will recognize your talent. Or maybe you get some new clients for your carpentry business. So no matter what, you get something out of it.
Win-win, baby, win-win.
And so finally, Harry says, okay, fine, I'll go do this thing. And so Harry goes to this audition, he's handed the script, and he's reminded repeatedly to not attempt to audition. Don't try to act, just read the lines. I don't care if you're monotone, you just read these lines because you're not auditioning. Everybody else is, you're not. Is that clear? And Harry's like, yes, I get it. I'm just reading the lines.
I ain't even gonna lie, that would hurt my feelings. I would be so hurt by that. Yeah, we got 1,100 people in here. Welcome, baby.
And so Harry sits down and he starts reading the lines and he's trying to do what they told him to do, but the way he was actually feeling and his actual personality began seeping through. He started coming off as this really grumpy and sarcastic guy that just didn't care about anybody there. He was just totally bitter that he was in the situation he was in.
I feel like I know who this is now. Let's see. Let's find out.
And apparently, this is exactly what the director was looking for in one of the characters he was trying to cast. That kind of nonchalant, bravado, macho, alpha type guy who just didn't care about anybody. And so over the course of the day, as he's reading the script over and over again, not caring at all about how he's performing, he's just simply reading these lines and just being himself. He was actually doing this amazing job.
That's funny! Oh my God. Oh my God. So instead of trying to deliver, regardless of what they said, instead of trying to deliver his acting abilities, he's like, forget it. And it worked. That's crazy.
Portraying one of the characters. And so they let Harry go the whole day. No one told him they were looking at him as a potential character. And then at the end of the day, when Harry was about to just throw the script in the trash and leave without talking to anyone, the film director, better known as George Lucas, walks up to Harry, better known as Harrison Ford, and says, "Wait a minute, I was wrong. You are perfect for this movie.
Hey!
You need to play Han Solo." And so Harrison Ford said, "All right, I'll play Han Solo." And that role as Han Solo propelled Harrison Ford into the megastar that we know him as today.
Crazy! Crazy! What? Oh my God, that's an amazing story. I'm so glad. I would have never known. Thank you, Mr. Ballin. I would have never known.
A few years after Harrison had starred in Star Wars and he was this total A-list celebrity, he was at a Hollywood studio in one of their restaurants when one of the waiters walked over to him with the silver tray, and on this silver
I caught Pikachu. Pika!
tray was a single business card. So Harrison reaches over, he grabs the business card, the waiter walks away, and he looks at the card, and handwritten on it is the phrase, "I missed my bet." And he flipped the card over, and it was the name of that producer from the new talent program that had called Harry into his office and said, "You're never going to make it in Hollywood and you're fired." It was that guy, and he had apparently sent the waiter over to make amends because he was eating lunch in the same restaurant. And so Harrison would later say in interviews that at the time he got this card, and to this day that he was doing this interview, he said it gave him immense pleasure that when he looked up from this business card and he understood the situation, he knows this guy's in the room somewhere, as he looked around the room, he couldn't recognize the guy because he didn't know what he looked like. He was a nobody. And so instead of wasting any more time looking for this producer, he just looked at the card, chucked it, and went back to eating his lunch.
Yo, I love this. I love this. It's like, that guy that fired me, he got it all wrong, and now he regrets it. I don't even know who he is. Where is he? What is his name? I don't even remember what he looks like. He's a nobody. Look at me.
So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret into
I did. It was Pikachu.
today's episode, let us know in the comments section what it is and where you found it.
I just saw it a minute ago. It was Pikachu.
So give us the timestamp, and if you're the first to do that, we'll pin you at the top of the comments section.
Yo, this is so good. Y'all, we got another one. We got another one, baby. We got another one. Yeah, we about to check this next one out, man. This is so good, though. Loved it. Oh, crap. I done clicked on the end of the video. Y'all ready? This is the last one. Then we out of here, baby. Let's go.
But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the Strange, Dark, Mysterious, delivered in story format, then you come to the right channel because that's all we do, and we upload 2 or 3 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please replace all of the like buttons index with all of them.
Shout out to everybody that's dropping donos and Cash App donos and stuff. I'm going to shout you guys out at the end of the live.
Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories. In January of 2015, a 27-year-old Texas man named George Pickering III.
Oh yeah, by the way, you guys, this one is top 3 stories that sound fake but are 100% real.
Suffered a massive stroke. He was immediately admitted to a hospital where he...
Wait, hold on. A 27-year-old suffered a stroke? Wait, that ain't right.
7-year-old Texas man named George Pickering III suffered a massive stroke. He was immediately admitted to a hospital where he was put on life support, and then doctors delivered some bad news to his family. It would turn out George was brain dead, and they advised the family that realistically they should consider pulling George off of life support because it wasn't going to do him any good. George's family was totally devastated by this news. In fact, George's father was so upset he just left the hospital altogether.
Yo, man. Oh, my God. Strokes are something that I never thought I would have to deal with in my life. I thought they were such a rare and unique thing that happened to random, unexpected people, but to have lost both my mother and my aunt to strokes, I'm scared.
And so in his father's absence, George's mother and brother wound up talking to doctors and saying that, yes, we are prepared to pull George off of life support. After they consented to have this done, they put George on an organ donor list and then began making funeral plans. When George's father came back to the hospital later that day and found out his family had consented to have George pulled from life support, he was furious. He did not believe his son was just totally brain dead and there was no hope. He felt like they should at least try to give him a little bit more time to potentially give them a signal that he was okay. But George's mother and brother told George's father that they had spoken to the doctors and there was just no hope. There was no reason to delay this process. It was time. But George's father was totally not having it. He stormed out of the room and he found the doctors and he demanded they keep his son on life support just a little bit longer. But the doctors told him there really is no reason to do that. And in fact, all you're doing is jeopardizing the people that need his organs, that are waiting for this organ transplant. And so really what we need to do is actually expedite taking him off of life support because...
Damn. I'm sorry, you guys, but hearing this story just has me thinking back to my mom and aunt. You know, we kept my mom on life support as long as we could. And then with my aunt, I felt like we didn't keep her on there long enough. I was literally on my way to the hospital. My family was there. I was getting off of work, and they were trying to make the decision whether or not to keep her on or take her off. And it was like the decision was forced upon one of my family members, and I didn't get to go and have any say-so or input. And I would have wanted her to stay on a bit longer, but they pulled before I can get there.
That's the best thing to do right now. George's father was so upset, totally distraught. He ran back to his son's room. He laid over his son and he just held his hands and stared at him and just prayed that his son would give him some sign that he was actually not brain dead. But his son didn't. And before long, the doctors began filtering into the room to begin the procedure of removing his son from life support. And when they came in the room, George's father kind of snapped. He ran out of the room, he ran out of the hospital, he went out to his car and he got his gun and then ran back into the hospital, back into his son's room and aimed the gun at the doctors and ordered them to stop what they were doing and leave the room immediately. And so the doctors had not actually begun removing George from life support, so he's still on life support. And so once the doctors and everyone left the room, George's father walked over, he locked the door, and then for the next several hours, he just kept his gun aimed at the door as he laid over his son and just kept looking down in hopes that his son would give him some sign that he was not brain dead. And so finally, when the SWAT team arrived and was stacking up outside the door in the hallway, they began yelling into the room for George's father to put the gun down and let them come in. And George's father the whole time is just looking down at his son, hoping and praying that his son is just going to do something. And right as the SWAT team kicks in the door and comes into the room, George's father had reached down and grabbed his son's hand, and his son squeezed his hand back. And as soon as his father felt that, he dropped the gun and he surrendered peacefully to the SWAT team. And then the SWAT team put George's father on the ground, and as he's being detained, George's father is yelling for the doctors to come in the room. My son is okay. And sure enough, when the doctors came in the room, George was okay. He was moving his hand, his eyes were open, he was making good eye contact, and before long, he made a totally full recovery. He would...
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's crazy. Yo. Something clicked. Something clicked in that father's head. There was a voice that told him to do everything he did. even though what he did was extremely dangerous and very, very irresponsible. But he saved his son's life by doing it. Wow.
Would later be told that had his father not stepped in when he did and bought him those extra few hours on life support, George would have died. As for George's father, he was ultimately sentenced to 10 months in prison for...
Shit, I take it. I take it. My boy's still alive. Shit, throw me in there.
For his aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, but he and the rest of his family think what he did was certainly worth going to prison for.
Big facts. 100. 100. Sheesh. Y'all, that's crazy, man. Shout out to Pops, bro. He did that.
In 1959, Ronald McNair was a very gifted 9-year-old African-American boy living in South Carolina. While he was good at virtually everything he tried, from music to athletics to schoolwork, the only thing that ever really grabbed his attention was outer space. And so as a 9-year-old child, he made the decision that one day he was going to become an astronaut. But he had no idea how to become an astronaut. And so he decided the first thing he would do would be to go to his library and take out some books on NASA, the very famous organization that sends American astronauts to space. However, there was an issue with his plan. This library only served white patrons. It was a segregated library. Ronald knew this, but he figured, you know what, I'm a polite kid. I can get in there and get out before anybody notices me. But as soon as he walked into that library, everybody in there, who were all white, just stared at Ronald. Ronald could feel it, but he just kept his head down. And he walked through the library, he got to the science section, he grabbed a couple books he wanted, and then he walked back to the counter and he put them up, and he very politely asked the librarian, who was also white, if he could check these books out. And this librarian looks at him and says, "Young man, you better get out of here before I call the police." And Ronald, at this point, looks up at the librarian and thinks for a second, and then just hops up onto her counter and sits there and says, "Okay, I'll wait for the police." The librarian was totally outraged and would call the police and would call Ronald's mother. And before long, the police did show up, and it was two white guys. They come inside, and this librarian runs over to them, and she's talking to them, and she's pointing back over at Ronald, gesticulating that very clearly Ronald is the issue. That's why you've been called here. And the officers would be just totally annoyed by this librarian, and they would say to her, "Why don't you just let the kid take the books out?" And the librarian was totally offended at this and began...
Woo! The mindsets of people back then. Fascinating. Very, very fascinating. And then the cops, surprisingly, the cops were not mean or abusive towards the boy. This is like, let the boy check out the books, God.
Began defending her decision to call the police instead of letting him take the books out. And as she's defending herself, Ronald's mother comes running into the library. She runs over to her son to make sure he's okay. And then she looks up at the police officers and this librarian to try to figure out what's going on. And at this point, the police officers are just totally over it. And they turn to the librarian and they say, "You know what? You really ought to let him take the books out." And then the officers just turned around and left. The librarian was not about to just let him take the books. She was still very upset.
That is so stupid. It's almost as if he's gonna do something to the books, like burn them or something.
And so she storms over to Ronald's mother and she says to her, "You shouldn't let your son come in here." And at this, Ronald's mother is looking at this librarian who's totally upset. And she looks down at her son who's got his head down, and then she notices the few books on the counter about space. And she was aware of Ronald's love for outer space, and she put together what had happened. And after thinking about it for a moment, she looks up at this librarian and she just says, "Well, since he's here already, can he take out those books? He'll take good care of them." The librarian is still totally furious, but knows this is a losing fight. And so very reluctantly, with a scowl on her face, she grabs the books and she jams them into Ronald's arms. And Ronald's mother nudges Ronald and says, "What do you say?" And Ronald, while holding all of his new books about NASA and space, looks up at the librarian and smiles and says, "Thank you, ma'am." And then he and his mom turn around and they leave. Ronald would go on to earn his PhD in physics from MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. And after graduation, he was picked up by NASA to become an astronaut.
There
and
you
in
go.
1984, Ronald went into outer space. He was actually the second African American to ever go into outer space. And while he was in orbit, apparently he played his saxophone for his crew. And then in 1986, Ronald was chosen again to go on another mission to outer space. But tragically, 73 seconds after takeoff, their space shuttle, the Challenger, exploded, killing Ronald and the 6 other astronauts on board. Following his death, the library in South Carolina that had tried to turn Ronald away for his skin color renamed themselves the Ronald McNair Life History Center.
Wow. Things I didn't know about that man's story. That is amazing. The library that first turned him away renamed themselves after him. I loved how the mom and the boy just wasn't like, disrespectful. They wasn't irate, especially because of times like that back then. They were still nice, kind, and courteous. And it suited them. Even where there was a time where there was a lot of hatred, they didn't put that hatred back out there into the world. Man.
The United States formally entered World War II in December of 1941, following the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii by the Japanese. Roughly 6 months later, a 21-year-old Alabama native named Henry Irwin joined the Army Reserve. After nearly 2 years of additional military training, Henry was made into a radio operator and was assigned to a B-29 bomber. A B-29 bomber is this huge aircraft whose sole purpose is to drop bombs. And so in February of 1945, Henry and his B-29 bomber unit were sent to the Pacific to do just that, drop bombs on the Japanese. 2 months after arriving, Henry's B-29 was tasked with being the lead bomber in a group attack on a Japanese chemical facility located about 125 miles north of Tokyo. Aside from just operating his radio inside of the B-29, occasionally Henry's job was to organize the other planes in the attack when their B-29 was the lead attacker. And so the way he would do this was by dropping a series of smoke bombs out of his plane, and then once they touched the ground and all the smoke was coming up, he would hop on his radio and communicate with the other pilots in his sortie and tell them to organize themselves off of this visual reference point on the ground. He would basically have them fly to certain positions relative to the smoke cloud. And so once all the pilots had been organized into proper formation, they would continue to their target and commence their bombing raid. For this mission, Henry was in his typical position right behind the front turret gun towards the front of the plane. When his pilot told him to start dropping smoke bombs, Henry did as he was told. And so he pulled the lever, which opened up a chute on the bottom of the plane, and all these smoke bombs began tumbling out of it. Now, as soon as he pulled that lever, all of these smoke bombs that were in that particular chute were ignited. They were on a timed fuse, and so they would tumble out of the plane, and then before hitting the ground, they would ignite, and then smoke would start billowing out of them. But for some reason, after he pulled that lever, a couple of the smoke bombs fell out of the chute, but one of them kind of got turned around, and as it tumbled down, it kind of caught itself on the lip and bounced back up into the plane, and it struck Henry square in the face, shattering his nose, and then it ignited and literally lit Henry's face on fire, which instantly blinded him. Smoke bombs are not considered lethal devices because they do not explode the way typical bombs do. However, make no mistake about it, you would not want to be near a military-grade smoke bomb when it went off. In order for it to emit that very thick and long-lasting smoke that it does, the smoke bomb ignites a chemical fire within itself that burns extremely hot. And so when the smoke bomb came back inside the plane and ignited right in front of Henry, those chemicals landed on his face, and so that's why he caught on fire. And if that wasn't bad enough, the smoke bomb also filled the plane completely with smoke, making it impossible for the pilots to see anything. Despite his burning, shattered face, all Henry could think about was if he didn't get this smoke bomb off the plane in the next few seconds, they were all going to crash and die. So instead of trying to put out his burning face, Henry began feeling around on the ground for the smoke bomb, which again is basically like a fireball. And when he found it, he pulled it into his chest, trying to smother it as best as he could. And while his body completely engulfed in flames, Henry began low crawling his way towards the front of the plane, where he knew just by touch much, there was going to be a window. And so as he agonizingly crawled, he's on fire, he finally gets to this window, he can feel it above him, and he manages to lift the smoke bomb up and throws it out the window. And then
that's insane. This man was on fire. What?
afterwards, he collapses on the ground and he passes out completely on fire, fully expecting to die. A few seconds later, the smoke inside of the plane cleared because now the smoke bomb was gone, and the pilot, who had put the plane on autopilot but did have to drop significantly in altitude because they were starting to stall, finally could see again and saw they were about 300 feet from hitting the water. And so he was able to pull back and get out of their dive, and he narrowly escaped crashing into the water, and he turned around and began flying back to base. On this return trip, the crew, who were unhurt, began assessing the damage, and they saw Henry on fire on the side of the plane, and so they rushed over and they put him out with a fire extinguisher, expecting him to be dead, but to their shock and horror, he was still alive. And so they gave him morphine for his pain and expected him to die any moment, but Henry didn't die. Instead, he was very on the flight all the way back to base, and he would ask each of his crew members if they were okay, and they would all say, yeah, I'm just fine. It's really you who we're concerned about here. When the pilot finally landed back at base, Henry's body had stiffened up so dramatically from being on fire that the doctors couldn't actually get him out of the plane's side door, and so they had to dismantle the side of the plane to get Henry out. And so the doctors fully expected Henry was going to die basically any moment from his horrible wounds, but since he hadn't yet, they did everything they could to try to save him. They put him through dozens of surgeries, including one where they would try to remove the chemical flecks from the smoke bomb that had embedded in his eyes. And since these chemicals combusted as soon as they made contact with oxygen, every time they pulled out one of these flecks, it would burst into flames and very painfully burn Henry's eyes a little bit more.
What? Oh my God, that's crazy. They're pulling something from this man's face, and as they do it, it bursts into flames. Yo, this dude is a trooper. Look, I feel like you guys and me, had that been us, we would have been trying to freaking put the fire out that is engulfed our body instead of throwing that thing out of the window while caught on fire. Oh my God. Yo, this is a special kind of man.
While Henry was undergoing all these surgeries, the rest of his B-29 crew immediately went to their commanding officer and said, you have to put Henry in for the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is the highest award you can achieve in the U.S. military. After the commanding officer heard the story of what Henry had done, he agreed, and in record time, he got the paperwork processed and got Henry approved for this award. But there were no actual physical medals of honor on the island to actually present to Henry, and the officers and the rest of his crew were worried Henry would die before the actual medal was shipped out to the island to be given to him. And so the only Medal of Honor that was on this island was inside of a museum behind a glass case. And so one of the officers in Henry's crew went into the museum, shattered the case, took the display Medal of Honor, and rushed to Henry's bedside and put it around his neck. And then after that, somehow, Henry just didn't die. After dozens and dozens of surgeries, Henry actually regained sight in one of his eyes and regained the use of most of his body. Henry would later be asked in an interview what it was like to do this very heroic thing that he did. And he would say, well, I only moved the bomb 13 feet. But 13 feet feels like 13 miles when you're on fire. Henry would go on to be honorably discharged from the military, and he would spend the next 37 years working closely with other burn victims, trying to keep them positive and optimistic about their recovery. He would also go on to have 4 children, one of which became an Alabama state senator. In 2002, Henry died of natural causes at the age of 80.
Wow. This man lived a long life, all the way to 80 years old. After his injuries, he went on to have 4 kids. Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Wow. I mean, he kept a good attitude, and he helped other people keep a good attitude about their situations as well. This was such a good story. Man, I think I've heard of this man and seen his image before, but I didn't know the full details of this. Man, I'm so glad that I watched this. This was absolutely amazing. Y'all, we got over 3,200 people in here. Y'all, we got to lighten the mood now. So y'all know what that means. Time for something funny. Time for a funny reaction. Shout out to Fell Army. I got a video that I came across of theirs. Let's do some funny, y'all. Let's do some funny. Let's lighten the mood up a bit. Y'all, this is funny. Reaction fails. Try not to laugh. 2021. After this, I'm going to be doing some shout outs to some people that's dropping donos and whatnot. But let's get it. I'm going to try not to laugh real. This is a try not to laugh. And I've been smiling this whole time tonight. But I'm going to try not to laugh, all right? This is try not to laugh. Y'all see it? Wait. I feel like I'm going to crack up because I'm already feeling like laughing. Look, try not to laugh. Y'all got to do it with me. I don't want to see no laughing emojis unless you really laugh. Y'all ready? I'm ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Let's go. Oh, that was convenient. That's never happened before ever in the history of ever again. That only happened to him that one time. It never happened again.
What is this?
Weak. That's what that is. You're weak, bro. Watch it. Watch. Oh. He's pulling the truck. Oh, wait. Don't pull it too fast. Yo, what this dude doing? He's scratching, itching, something nasty stink. What was he doing? What was he doing?
I got that on video.
What was he doing? Oh, he was trying to get the front bumper out. Yo! No way. No way. I know darn well. Oh, that was a seal. I thought it was a fish. I thought it was the same fish that got up there and was like, yo, let me get my brother back. I saved you, brother. But no, that was a seal. He was like, oh, hey, thanks. Easy catch for me. Got it, yo. Seal, how did the seal even know? How could he even see that? That was amazing.
Oh, did you see what happened to that?
What up, little man? Yeah, you late. Who was cracking up? Was this man laughing at himself? Was this dude laughing at himself? If he was, he laughed before he can even hit the ground. He sounded like a female, too, if it was. I thought it was a chicken there laughing at him. Look at that was such a struggle. I already knew he was going to go down. Look at that. He could barely get off his knees. He thought he was going to jump over this. Boy, you was not an NBA player. You don't got that kind of height. This man laughed before he can even lay on the ground properly. Ooh, you in trouble. You in trouble. Look at him. Look at him. Look at his face. He in trouble. Don't do it. Don't. She about to splash all the water out the kids' pool. Poor kids. Dang, how she didn't, I ain't even, look, I ain't even see her miss it. She slipped. Oh! About broke her theses. All of her front grill gone. That's messed up. They just let this girl go. I heard that. Y'all heard that? She tried to bite the ground. I ain't never seen nobody bite the ground before.
Oh my God! Did you get that?
He worried about if it was got on camera. Boy, you need to check on her. Make sure she all right. Talk about did you get that? Stupid.
Are you okay?
Now you ask is she okay?
Holy shit.
Oh, girl, you gonna suck a dang old pistol up your throat. Ew!
Happened to Penny.
This man disappointed that the dang on liquor didn't spill. You should be grateful. That was funny to him. Oh, he losing his pants, y'all. This would be me. Look, we look like brothers. He lost his pants. He's like, nah, I gotta give up. I gotta give up. My wiener's out. Yeah, we see that. Could have been worse. What was he up to? What was he up to? This man got laid out flat. Oh, he was trying to mess his buddy up in the shower and slipped on a wet floor. Oops. What did I do? How did I do that? Where we at? Sorry about that. He a fool.
Hey! What happened?
I'm trying not to laugh, y'all. This man, he broke the trash can! Look at it! I ain't never seen no mess like this before. This man's hand is in the trash can, but he broke it. Ah, look at that! Look at it! It's in pieces! I failed the challenge. Damn it!
You broke the trash!
Ah! Yo, how did this man know he broke the trash? God dang, you really had to stick your head out there. Which one? I mean...
This kiwi simply stuff is just so good. Oh. Still swallowed though.
I bet you do. I bet you... I knew all along. I knew all along. I ain't even gonna go there.
Oh my God!
Hey, is that who I think it is? I think it is. Yo, I had the biggest crush on this chick back in the American Ninja Warrior days. That chick was like a goddess to me.
Oh my God!
What happened? Hey, you ever laugh so hard that it hurts? That's what happened with this guy. It looked like he looked like he in pain from laughing, dog. I've done that before. Yeah, your stomach hurt, your head hurt, you got a migraine from laughing. I wish I knew what was funny though. I kind of missed it.
Oh, shit. Where did you put it? Like, I put it in here. I tried to get it in that little hole.
This woman tried to put some oil in the dang on thing and poured it in the little hole where you pull out the little dipstick. She's a dipstick for that. Y'all shouldn't have did that so close to each other. That was stupid. Yo, from a distance, I thought he was an old man, but you can see him up close. He's actually a young guy. He's swole too. He be in the gym. Oh, he going down, bro. Dude, that is an all plastic shopping cart, man. That thing's so light, cheap, and flimsy, and you're sitting on the edge of it. He's about to flip over. I hope you don't break that camera. Told you. Dang, look at that lens. It's huge. Safe. Yo, that was like Sonic the Hedgehog. Knocked the coins out of him. Oh. See, that's what happens when you try to pop willies on cheap bikes. I've done that 5 times. It hurt. Chain came off. Yep, cheap bite. Out. You better watch out, lady. That cat might scratch you. Oh! That cat don't like kisses. It got bit. Hey, that's look. I can't even talk. I'm over here wanting to say one thing, but it's a family channel. I can't say it. He scared the shit out of her. Literally. I can laugh now. I've already failed the challenge. How? How you cut the freaking bottle and the whole table break? That makes no sense. You didn't even touch the table. Yo, he's so confused. This man is perplexed. He's like, I didn't touch the table though. Why?
Okay.
Oh! Why would she even want to jump on the back of somebody that's blindfolded and can't see where they're going? That was dumb.
On the stairs and I've been there singing la 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 la. Yeah.
Bro, that puddle of water, what did you think was gonna happen, dog? Ladies, you'll never understand. You'll never understand. Hey, y'all remember that? Who remembers that website, stupidvideos.com? Ah, crap. There was a skit that was so funny from that video, from that website. It was a commercial. I can't remember how it goes, though, but it was exactly like this. But this is a real-life version of it. Ah, Frank, I wish I could remember how it goes, but this is exactly what happened. It was like, just chip it. Just chip it out. I can't remember. But the guy in the stupid video, he was like, oh! I wish I could remember the video. Just chip it. Stupid videos. Oh, snap. I was too busy making sure this dude was okay. How did that dude go down? Oh, his step back. The step back right there. It was at this very moment. He didn't put his feet in the right position. Dang, that made a lot of noise.
Right. I hope you got more jeans or shorts because you're about to get wet.
I won't do it.
You're not gonna.
Bro, you know darn well you don't be in the gym. Man, you ain't got no upper body strength.
Put your foot in the loop.
Yeah, you better put your foot in the loop.
You gotta learn from experience.
Yeah, put your foot in the loop.
Oh my god, look at that eel.
Oh, that thing is huge. Boy, you gonna get electrocuted. It's probably not electric eel, but still, that'd be cool. Yo, he changed his mind. Oh, snap! Yo, he tried to bail out. This man changed his mind after he saw that dang old big ass eel. He's like, yo, that thing is huge. He was like, nah, I'm good, I'm coming down. Nope. You should have went for it. You should have went all the way forward, bro. Look at him, He looking for that eel. He worried about his dang on sandal. Boy, you better go to dang on Walmart and get another pair for $3.
Oh, that's painful. Sorry, can you hold on? Let go of your hand.
Yo, this man might be the biggest chicken in history, dog. Look. Yo. Perfect shot. Did this lady just punch the dang on thing with her face? Oh, Lord have mercy. Look, we gonna blame it on the alcohol. We gonna blame it on the alcohol. Look, she gotta be drunk. He stood up there with all this confidence and junk like he about to get on that horse. Like he done rode before.
Don't like you're gonna swing one leg over and slide.
Nah, that back hurt. You see this right here? This position is the my back hurt position.
Did you get that?
Bro, come on now. I don't even got to play the whole video to know that that branch is more like a twig. And your weight is about to destroy it. Oh, I was wrong. Backflips. Backhand flips. What? Come on, no. Ain't you there to protect her? You get scared. Yeah.
Oh, mein off.
I think kids be doing that junk on purpose, man. They know that hitting hurts.
Okay.
Oh, snap. Come on now. I thought everybody knew not to stand on these. These ain't sturdy for nothing. Stupid.
Wait. It's okay. Go down. Dude, are you okay? I've got it on video. What the
Knocked his glasses off. This fool here. Maybe you ought to wear contacts when playing this sport. They should have ended it with one of the real funny clips. That last one wasn't that funny. But anyway, y'all, look. We've made it to the end of the live stream. I got a few shout outs to do. I thank y'all so much for hanging out with us tonight, man. I had a good time. And, yeah, I really wanted some Mr. Ballin tonight. And these were some really, really good stories. I really enjoyed these. So let's see what we got. Christopher Hernandez, the usual. We up in here. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much. And you're welcome for the live stream. Josh McKee, what's going on with you? Glad you're back, at least for the night. Yeah, baby, I gave it to y'all tonight. Melanie, what's going on with you, baby girl? She says, love you too, sweetheart. Thank you so much for the dono. Karen, I saw Karen. She came, she left, but she hung out with us for a little bit. Kelly, I didn't know you was making it tonight, baby girl. What's going on with you? We is in here. Thank you so much. We is in here. But y'all, that's it. That is it. We made it to the end of the live stream. Y'all know what time it is. You like this reaction, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for more. As always, the link to the originals will be down in the description box below. If you haven't already, make sure you follow your boy on the